Hi, I'm Tim. I am the Tinkering Turtle. I haven't done a video in a while, but today we're going to add some accessories to the Magicycle Ebike. Now what we have here are 3 accessories, 2 from Magicycle, 1 that you can purchase, 1 that you can get from support, and another one that I make personally. The first one is a new battery mount, and why I got the new battery mount is Magicycle had an issue where people were putting on the battery, and as they rotated it over, they'd get sparks on the terminals. So what they did is they added a cutoff switch. The O side says there's no power going to the bike. The I side says the circuit is connected. So you turn it off, you put the battery on, then you can turn on the bike from that standpoint. I'll show you how to install this. It's really quite simple. There's just 2 bolts and a wire connector, and it's going to be an easy swap out. Now I want to take a quick second here and express some appreciation to Magicycle for what they've done with this battery mount. Not everybody has the problem with the sparking mount, so if you don't see a spark, you don't need to worry about it. But in response to the people that did have the issue, they took their time to actually make a special mount with a switch. And the switch looks relatively water resistant, so that's pretty cool. It's kind of a testament to Magicycle's support and how quickly they can react to issues that come up. So kudos to Magicycle. Thank you very much. Second accessory which you can buy on Magicycle's accessories page is a skid plate. Again, a fairly simple installation. There's 2 bolts that come in the package along with 2 spacers, a couple washers, and some zip ties to install back here to the frame. And that as well should not be too hard of an installation. For the battery mount, you're going to need an M3 Allen wrench, and this one you'll need an Allen wrench as well, but I'm not sure what size yet. Now the third accessory is a terminal cover that I designed and made for the batteries that are on Magicycle. It simply straps on and covers these terminals on the battery mount from getting dirty or wet or a lot of crud on them. As you take the battery off, you put the bike on a carrier and you transport it someplace. You'd use this. It simply fits over the top of those terminals, and that way they don't get dirty and debris, and when you take it off, you can put the battery on without any issue. So I'll show you the proper way to install that as well. So now that I've shown you pretty much what we're doing today, let's get to it. Okay, we're going to start the process by removing the old terminal or the battery mount. It's at the bottom again. There's only 2 bolts that hold it to the frame, I think, and it uses an M3. So I'm going to start by removing that. Okay, and what you'll see is the 2 bolts actually go through a small metal bracket. Don't lose that, because that actually gives the plastic a little bit more rigid feel or rigid mount to the 2 bolts. So set those aside. Now the new one seems to have longer bolts. I think I'm just going to use the original ones and hold the new ones back, just because I know that the shorter bolts go in there and it holds fine, so I will do that. Now you just simply gently tug the wire out of the hole, and what it is this part here is kind of jammed down in, so you just wiggle and pull until you get that connector out. You're going to see the new connector fits in right there, but you don't want to let loose of this one and have it drop down in. Now these connectors all seem to pull straight apart. They can be tough, so just get a good hold, pop it loose. It's got a flat and it's a 2-pin connector. It's got a flat and a small way. You just make sure that you line up the new connector the same way. So here's the new connector. I'm going to reverse the process. Make sure it goes all the way together. Push the wire back in like it was. Get it in position. And take the bracket. The bracket only goes in one way because it has the rounded corners. And then put the bolts in. Okay, I've got the 2 bolts all the way in. And make sure the switch is switched to the O side, so there is no circuit up into the controller and the screen up above. I'm going to go grab a battery real quick, and I'll show you how that goes in. Okay, now that I have the 2 bolts all the way down in, I'm going to show the installation of the battery. And like always, you line it up on the tab, and even if you go slowly onto the bike, you'll notice there was never any kind of spark there. Now I'm going to reach down and flip the switch to the on position, come up here, and you see the bike turns on. Now turn it back off. Now I'm going to try the same thing. I'm going to switch this to the off position, come up here, and there's no power to the screen. Now to remove the battery, just click it to the off position, use the key in the lock above, and you can slowly pull it out, and you'll see there was never a spark anywhere in there. I can put it back on, and that's the install of the battery mount. Now while I got a good angle of the battery mount, I'm going to show you how to install the terminal cover that I made. It's a simple Velcro strap that you slide down through the wires underneath the controller. It's kind of hard to do because I can't see it real good. And then it just goes right onto the terminal covers, and you'll come over here, you'll put the strap on, and then that terminal cover is not going anywhere. This is for when you're transporting the bike or you're leaving it in storage and you want to protect those metal battery terminals from damage, debris. This will keep out most moisture. It does not have a seal, but I haven't had anybody complain that there's a lot of moisture in there when they get to their destination. So I think this is a good product. I sell this on my Etsy store. The link will be in the description of the video. Okay, the next accessory we're going to install is the skid plate. And the way the skid plate goes on is you take out the bolts that hold the controller, and there's spacers and a longer bolt that will hold this over the controller, and then you bend this down, and these standoffs just sit on this area here, and then you zip tie through these holes to the back frame. So it just bends over like that. It's pretty simple. The only problem we're going to have is this bolt will come off easy, and it's an M4 Allen wrench. This one's going to be a little tougher. We're going to have to pull this wire up out of the way so we can even gain access to it, and then probably leave it out of the way and pull it to the side so we get the spacer down in there. So let's get started on that. So we'll just tug this out of the frame a little bit so we can pull it to the side. I know I'm probably covering up the view here. I'm just taking that bolt out. Now the bolt that comes out has a washer and a lock nut. If the lock nut fits on the longer bolt that's going to go in, I'll probably use that. It's going to be a little tricky to pull this to the side to get that long standoff in there, but we'll figure it out. And the second one. Well, as it turns out, I couldn't get the lock nuts off of the other bolts to use on these, so I'm just going to go ahead without them. And the way this works is you put the bolt through the skid plate, and then you put the spacer underneath it. Hopefully you can see that. And you fit those bolts. And we'll start the bottom one here, the top one I should say. We'll get that started. And then we're just gonna have to mess with this back one. Let me see if I can get you a better view of that. We're gonna have to mess with the back one to get the bolt down through there and the spacer. Can't really see from that angle. You have to really push that standoff down into the wires to get it started. It's not an easy thing to get started at all. Pull the wires up out of the frame a little bit. You can get them to clear, hopefully. That spacer just does not want to sit down in there. So in an attempt to get this in, these are aluminum spacers, and I just sanded a little bit so I can get past the wires a little bit easier. That's an attempt to get it down in there and get it going. Pull these wires out a little bit and spread them. I don't know if that sanding that did much good at all. So what I'm doing is I got the spacer down in the wires down in here, and I'm pulling the bolt so it's square to the tube going in. That way I won't cross thread it. No, I think I got it. There you go. So I got that in there. I got it so it was able to go square in, but you have to pull these wires pretty far apart. I don't think sanding off that little section did anything, so I wouldn't bother with that. And then I've got to finish tightening up this bolt here. And one thing I will say, they didn't give you any instructions on how to do this, so I just went on the Facebook groups and found a picture of one installed, and that's how I figured it out. So now that I got these two bolts in, I'm going to just pull this back and wire tie this part up here back to the frame. Be careful, you've got a brake line back here and you've got these wires over here with the gear shift cable. You don't want to bind those up, so just make sure that those are kind of down out of the way when you're putting it on. So I'll take a couple of the wire ties that were supplied by Magicycle, and I'll get the first side started. Actually, I'll just do one for now. And then I'm going to reach up underneath, and I don't got a good way to show you guys this. I'm sorry about that, but I'm going around the frame before the little cross member here. Coming back up through. And I'm not going to pull this super tight to begin with until I get both of them on there. But this is a pretty simple. This one's not, doing this isn't too bad. Now that I've got them both loose fit, I'm going to pull them down tight by just squaring this up. And I'll do that to both of them. And that gives you the nice skid plate to protect all your wires. If you hit a log or something, this is going to stop it. Pretty neat accessory, and this is available on the Magicycle accessories page. I'll put a link to that in the description of the video. Let's clip off these wire ties. So just come back here with the wire clipper, snip off the extra on the ends. And there you go, skid plate installed. Other than putting in this bolt and spacer, it was pretty easy. You just need to tug these wires out of the frame a little bit, spread them apart, and then get the spacer down in onto the plastic bracket, and then push to square up the bolt to get it into the frame. Be careful doing this. Don't cross thread it, because then you're basically not going to have a bolt for your controller. And it's once you get it squared up and started, it goes in pretty easy, just a little stiff. So that's it for this video. We've got the new battery mount on. I've showed you the terminal cover that I offer through my Etsy store, and the skid plate that controls your covers your controller and the wires underneath in case you hit logs or debris. That way you won't damage the wires. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Or reach out to Magicycle, as they can help you with some of this stuff as well. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.